was a lot of sanding and retouching with super glue and resanding again, but I think I have those seals on and clean. Okay, I've been working on getting these fuselage halves all fitted together, and now working on getting the clear parts fitted together. So I had to sand down that clear part and sand down this rear wing. First, underneath there to get the wing to fit, and then the forward mating surfaces of that clear part where they meet the green. And thank goodness for these cards. I just love them. You can see the pattern there on the bottom. So just, held it at the correct angle and worked my way back and just repeatedly fit it. So now I think I've got that the way I want it. Now I'm test fitting that back, I guess it's a turret. I'm not sure, but that actually does not fit too bad. There's a slight gap at the top, so I may put just a sliver of styrene on the bottom to move it up ever so slightly to close that gap. But I'm pretty happy with that. So now I will move on to the cockpit. All right, not bad at all, actually. Again, I used that and just inside the opening there, pretty much just a little bit either side of the seam, and then a little bit in front with that stick, and that thing just sits right down in there. And same thing on the nose cone there, fits pretty good now. I just have to make sure when I do these seams I don't disrupt that mating surface. But oh, and there's the opening for the landing gear doors, which I'm going to have to put in, and those line up nice. So yeah, I mean, this thing is not necessarily living up to its reputation. Now that'll need a little cleanup, and my understanding is that gun turret up on top needs some work, so I'll probably investigate that next. Just holding that against the other side with my finger there, that just fit in there, which I guess is a good thing. I did use, I have sandpaper wrapped around a rod to clean up those edges, but that fits in there well. And I probably will just glue this in place stationary because it's going to be hanging and up on top. But yeah, if I have to glue that in place, it's no big deal. So now I think I can finally start working on the inside. I started masking stuff for the interior, and but I want to double check the fit of everything there. And then I think there's something to clean. Yeah, on that antenna, if you can see, there's like a puncture mark or whatever there, so I'm going to clean that up. And then there's no glass piece for this piece back here, and I looked at a couple of videos on this model, and yeah, everybody fills that in, so I'm going to do that as well. Anyone want to take bets on whether that antenna stays on till the end of this video? Cut a piece of sprue off with the razor saw, trimmed it a little bit, popped it in there from the other side, glued it with the ultra thin from the other side, let that dry, and then touched it with a drop of super glue, let that dry, and I'll buff it out. So I've come to the point where I have to deal with this rear turret, and it just doesn't work the way they've engineered it. I've watched a few videos, different people take different approaches. I actually cut some styrene, and I'm just kind of making a cylinder, if you will, out of the thing on the bottom. Now those are only glued to one side, because you can't even, it won't even stay together correctly to work on it unless it's like reinforced down there. I'm thinking I'll make a shelf on each side out of the styrene, because this should really just peek out of the top. It shouldn't be like fully exposed, so to speak. I don't know if you can, yeah, there. That's how it's supposed to look. But I have it so it'll all stay together. And as I set this on here, it does not look that bad. I think it is where it needs to be. If I can get that on camera. So it is the level at the top of those pegs. What I think I'm going to do is, bring it out a little bit on each side and have a shelf, so to speak, at that level that this can then rest on. because like I said, I test fitted on the other one, on the other peg as well, and I believe it's where it's supposed to be at that level. So here's what I came up with. It's really just a piece of styrene that I cut out to fit on those, around those posts and be level with those posts. And I test fit that piece in there and it fits, and that just holds it, you know, holds it better and tighter. And it doesn't go past halfway, if you can see that. So I'll make another one for the other side. And basically that base there has to fit in there. All right, that's still too narrow for that to fit into. So I'm gonna scale that back a little bit more and keep test fitting. Also working on these gaps that were inside the engine cowling, the forward part. And again, because you're gonna be looking at it from below, that will be noticeable. So I took a little styrene, filled that in, and let that dry, and I'll patch that up with super glue, and then, you know, use the curved sanding stick to try to sand that smooth. You can see as I try to push this together here, it's touching on this side and it's not touching on that side, so the shelf I made on that side needs to be further sanded down. All right, there we go. Yeah, I was able to sand those two sides down. Now that looks like they're the same distance from each other. The seam meets nicely at the top there. I can get that. It doesn't turn very freely in there, but I don't really care. I'm going to position it the way it needs to be and then leave it. So finally happy with that. All right, I just gave these pieces that are filling the engine nacelles there their last coat of super glue. So I'll buff that a little bit once that fully dries, and those will be done. As I'm working on this turret, I also kind of have to start working on or thinking about the figures. This is really cool. This guy fits inside this turret, and basically his eye is right up against the sight as he sits in there. And yeah, he's kind of like looking down that sight. You know, as I was researching this, I started reading, and I think they have a crew of 5. And so I'm thinking about how I would crew the aircraft, so to speak. And by the way, I'm filling the holes in the back of the pilot's seat. So it has that guy and has the pilot. I think this guy's supposed to be positioned if it were, you know, on its landing gear and standing outside. I think it's supposed to have a pilot and co-pilot, and I believe the co-pilot doubles as the navigator who could be up in the nose looking through the bomb sight. And then also waist gunners might be visible. And I don't know that there's enough guys there. So I went through the stash. I have this Verlinden U.S. Air Force ground crew of, you know, they're all in pieces, torsos, bottoms, heads, arms, you know. And so I kind of like this guy in the coat, and I can kind of position him working a gun. Those other 2 guys, you know, I'm not sure if they would work or not. But the other thing I have is then this monogram Air Cobra in 1-48. It has a pilot, so I may use him as well. And then that will give me like 4. Yeah, I'm sure one guy's inside and you can't see him anyway. So that'll give me 4 good figures to work with. So as I was going to fit these waist guns, I realized I messed up. It was an either or. And I put up there in the top, I put this in there so that you could do a window, when I should have just left it open. So yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that away. So I'm gonna cut that out of there and sand around there. I'm gonna have to do that on both sides. Doggone it. Pay attention next time, John. All right, there we go. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Basically, I just used this, you know, cut it in all 4 corners and then broke it out, you know, broke each piece out of there and then just sanded around there. So no harm, no foul. These are the racks that hold the bombs, and they had some nasty things on the inside there, some indentations, and it might be visible from underneath, so I filled those in with the Vallejo putty, and then while I was at it, I went ahead and filled in the there was a big gap in there where those lights are, the wing lights. So I just filled that in, and I'll paint that and kind of deal with that with paint before I put the glass in. Same thing on this side. Okay, finally have some paint down. So I went with the Vallejo US dark green and the Vallejo thinner there, and did all the interior parts, and then all these interior parts. So let all that dry and bring that together. I think I'll group the black now and do that next. So I just finished up with the black, did the propellers there and a couple of these pieces, the steering columns there and stuff, pieces that go in the cockpit. I'm gonna let all this dry now before I start to pull it together into sub-assemblies. So I think that's a good place to stop. Pretty happy with the progress I made. So I hope you found that interesting, and as always, thanks for watching and happy modeling.